Hello, everyone. My name is Tara, and welcome to Aligning to Love. In this channel, I aim to spread hope, joy, peace, and love to the world by sharing goodness and love within my life. In this video, I wanted to talk more about signs from the universe that I saw with my brother when I was with him last Tuesday and Wednesday, as well as other events that happened this previous week and into the weekend that were special and meaningful to me. Diving right in, when my brother and I were together, we saw the license plate 999, and I was telling him that angel number 999 represents ending of one chapter and a beginning of a new one. And I thought that was very fitting because both my brother and I are going through new life changes and transitions, and we're being support systems for both of these experiences that were happening or that are happening in our lives. And it's an important reminder for both of us to look towards the future with excitement and with eagerness instead of letting fear and stress fill our minds. So that was really special to see. After the concert the next day in Saratoga, New York, my brother and I were just walking around the streets, and I'm pretty short. I'm a short person, so my eye level tends to stay the same and pretty low to the ground. But for some reason, I had looked up at the building we were in front of in the moment, and the window pane said 444. And that angel number represents that your angels and your spirit guides are supporting you, loving you, and guiding you throughout your life, and that they're present with you whenever you see 444, especially telling you that you have support. So that is always a fun number to see. Throughout the trip, we also had different things happen where most people would just see it as, oh, that's lucky, or oh, that's a coincidence. But when my brother and I were trying to find a place to park, we were in a parking garage and everything was filled. There was no spots available, and then any spot that we saw, somebody took. We were pulling around towards the end of the garage when we had to almost leave, and one car pulled out exactly before we needed to exit the garage. And to me, that was definitely a sign that my invisible spirit team and universe was helping us so that we could park our car and have a great rest of our day. And so I was really thankful when that happened. Another thing that happened is when we went to go for lunch, we tried to eat inside of this restaurant, but they were full, and the waiter wanted to ask us if we could eat outside. And it was a beautiful day. The sun was out, and it was gorgeous. So we said sure. And we got seated out in this alleyway. It did have a nice couple of plants next to us, but we were kind of alone in this desolate alley. But we got to people watch, and I had looked over on the building across the alley from us, and it was a bookstore, but on the side of the building was a portrait of an elephant, not a portrait, but an engraving of an elephant reading a book. And elephants are one of my favorite animals. So that was really fun, and I love reading, and that is always one of my favorite pastimes. So I thought that was really cool, and if we hadn't been sitting out there, I would never have gotten to see that. And so my brother and I, we just had just a relaxing and fun time walking around, catching up. We got to go into a tea store and taste test different honeys and different tea, which was really fun. We also went down to a park and we saw all these baby ducklings with their mothers, and it just reminded us of kids because when we were kids, we grew up on a lake, and every spring we would get to see all the new baby ducklings and see them waddle across the yard and with their mothers. And it was just such a fun experience to have with my brother again, because I don't think we had seen that being both together in decades. So that was really amazing and a great experience to share with him. And more about last week. When I got back to school on Thursday, I also had a meeting after school, and it was for making sure that my student was prepared for the next year and making sure the documentation and the services and accommodations would be set for her. And I got to spend time with her parents in that meeting. I got to spend time with other colleagues that I work with in my building. And it was just a lovely meeting. And this child and this student of mine had grown so much this year, and I'm incredibly proud of her. And her parents are so just generous and friendly, and they just do so much for their child, and both with her parents and with the school working together to making sure that she's going to be successful just as she was this year for next year was such a heartwarming experience, and it made me feel so happy, and just it just made me feel so loving that this is a wonderful way to close her school year. And it felt great to be able to set her up for next year, even though I won't be part of it. And to have the conversations that we had with her family and the other colleagues, and the laughs, and just reflecting on her milestones and the goals we want for her to come. It was just an amazing meeting, and I hope her family and her parents felt the same way. I was also very thankful because on Friday we had our trip to the Montshire, and that same mother that was in the meeting was also able to show up for the field trip. So I got to have some nice quality conversations with her during the field trip. And another mother that I enjoy just getting to catch up with got to come on the field trip, and she's an educator, and her husband is also in the school systems. So he and she are very relatable for me because we both share the education background to have in common. And I got to catch up with her on the field trip, and I was very thankful that these parents took time out of their busy day to help our classroom and enjoy the excitement and the learning that took place. And then over the weekend, if you've seen my previous videos, my husband did get to go see his best friend, and they got to hang out and celebrate the good news and all of the exciting things that have been happening in our lives. And while he was away, my daughter and I, we got to have some quality time together, playing, reading books, and just singing and dancing together. I also got to clean up the house, which had been on my to-do list for a while, to reset everything for the new month of June. But then some of the most important parts of this weekend is that my daughter and I got to spend time with our neighbor next door. And it was wonderful. And she is such a warm and loving spirit. And she has just the most, kindest person and a great sense of humor, and it was just really relaxing to spend time with her. It was so funny because when she came over, she was like, oh my goodness, it's so funny to be in the same apartment style, but it's opposite layout. So and if the other things we were talking about is that sometimes with furniture it can feel like rooms are different sizes, or we were trying to figure out if the dimensions of our apartment were actually different, because it does seem like my living room space is bigger than hers, but then her dining room space seems like it's much bigger than mine. And we were just debating whether or not it was the furniture or just the fact that it was in the opposite layout form that made us confused. But I got to hear all of her stories about how she grew up and her family and her 8 sisters that she has, and her husband's family and his 4 brothers that he had. And just, I got to learn so much about her, and it was really fun. And I had wished that we had gotten to share those experiences earlier in our time of living here. Because if you're new to this channel, I've said that I've lived at this apartment for 10 years. And even though I've lived here, I haven't really gotten to spend too much time with my neighbors because my husband and I were both in our 20s and 30s and working nonstop and trying to see family and friends when we had some time off. And it was just really nice to get to spend time with her. I also got to hear stories about things that we both had in common that connected us more. Her husband went to Linden State College, and I went to Johnson State College, and I found out that one of her grandchildren went to Johnson State as well. But now Johnson State and Linden, as well as Castleton, all have a new name. It's like a tri state, it's a new name, like Northern, I don't know what it is now, Northern Tri State Universities. I'm not sure, but they're all connected so that students who go to either school can take courses at um, different different state schools if they're not offered at the college that they went to. And so that was really fun to have that in common with our different people that we know, as well as hearing about her sister that unfortunately recently just passed in April, but her sister lived in Peru, New York, and she had been an educator over there. And I had told her that one of my close friends that were roommates of mine in my after college was from Peru, New York, and she grew up there and she went through school there and went to the high school, and that her high school was right across the street from her parents' house. And it was just really fun to share these stories that I never knew about her. And she had talked about the apple orchards over by Peru, New York, and it was really interesting to be able to know that I had driven on those roads and seen those apple orchards. And it was just a really nice experience and a fun way to realize that we are connected and that the world is getting smaller and smaller with all of these connections that you can find with people. And I got to hear stories of how she first met her husband and just the time that she spent here in this area. And it was really funny. So I got to also visit her apartment with my daughter, and my daughter loved her rugs. Her rugs were so soft and fuzzy, and they're a lot better rugs than I feel we have in our apartment. Our rugs are clean and wonderful, but they're thin and they're not very fuzzy. So my daughter really loved being in her bare feet over there, and she got to being some pictures with our neighbor, and it was just such a relaxing and fun way to spend time with your neighbor. And there was no traveling involved. It was just walking across the hallway. I also got to learn that she is an amazing artist. I got to see some of her work with pastels and um, oil. I believe it's oil painting. And it was beautiful. She had some landscapes that she did, and she also had hands and portraits of the body, which was really cool. And one of the most special one that I saw was a portrait of her husband's hands that she had done. And it was just gorgeous. It was beautiful. And I got to see some of her wedding pictures, and she got to see some of mine that were hanging in our apartments. And it was just so loving. And I can't wait to spend more time with her. And I can't wait for my daughter to spend more time with her. And we're definitely going to try and do that more with our month and a half that we have left at this apartment. And so it's just a really good reminder that you may have lived somewhere for a long duration of your life, or you may have worked somewhere for a long time, but there's always more that you can learn from your neighbors, your colleagues, and your friends. And and another thing that happened over the week on Friday that I forgot to talk about, after the field trip, and after in the previous video I talked about helping set up for our kindergarten and first grade play that's this coming week, I also was able to get to go out to a restaurant that we always go to as colleagues at the end of the week. And I've only gotten to go like 3 or 4 times this year, but I've been really prioritizing trying to get there because I know that this is the last month that I have of school, and I'm going to be moving, and it may be harder to see my colleagues. But when I got there, A past colleague that I saw was there. She has been retired for a few years, so I was really excited to get to see her and her son that was there. And over the course of the time that we were chatting, I learned something brand new that I learned about her, and I've known her for 10 years. And she told me that she used to go camping and she used to go to a campground right up the street from my childhood house on the lake that my brother and I were just reminiscing when we saw the little ducklings. And so that was hysterical. And we talked about the baseball field that was up the street from us. We talked about the campground where we would always buy worms for fishing for my brother. And when they added the new restaurant down the street closer to my house with breakfast options, but even more options for lunch and dinner, especially ice cream. And it was just so funny because I have had so many conversations with her, but none of that ever came up in previous times. And I was just really thrilled that we got to have that experience. And it was so funny because her son was saying, "Oh, we need to get together. Like, come on over to her house, and we can have a pool party. As well as when you move, we can go to A&W and meet up with you." And because they used to go to A&W in the area so often, and when they heard that I was going to be moving back to that area and that A&W would be close to our new place that we are going to rent, they were so excited, and I would be thrilled to have them come visit us. So I am just filled with love and joy from this past week and especially the weekend. And I am hoping that I'll be able to put up more videos this coming week because my goal is always to put 2 videos out per week. But this past week was so hectic, and over the weekend with Juniper and my daughter, I was just exhausted last night and I was falling asleep by 8 o'clock. So I had meant to put this video out yesterday, but is going out this morning, which is okay. And I'm going to try to do 2 more videos before next Sunday. So hopefully my goal will be able to be followed through. And as the school year does close, I am planning on putting more videos out each week. So that is my intention. And I feel like once school is out, I will have more time to make that happen. So I hope everyone has a fantastic week. I love you all, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.